I want to spearhead this movement where we take combat sports and we slowly start to breach the school system. I do think that there are about 3% of the students that take up about 90% of administrators' time. They're always in the principal's office. Maybe they got too much energy. Maybe, their mouth gets them in trouble. Maybe they just have trouble sitting still. Maybe they're just disinterested. And I want to take those kids and I would like to introduce them, to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but inside of school hours.
Welcome to the Combat Creative Podcast, where we explore the heart of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uncovering its creative, entrepreneurial, and leadership qualities with guests who embody what it means to be a leader in our BJJ community. Now on 3, 1, 2... Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Combat Creative Podcast. I am your host, Jared, and I'm excited for today's episode because we have Chris, who is an educator, black belt in jiu-jitsu, an author. We're going to get into all of that. Chris, thank you for coming on the show today, buddy.
Hey, Jared, I appreciate you, swinging by H-Town and coming and chatting with us here at the beautiful Ome Cali Cafe.
Yeah, this worked out really well. Chris reached out to me on Instagram, and I didn't see it right away. I had to go to the message requests, and I'm like, oh, I have a message here. And I read it, and I was really interested in having a conversation with him. And I like doing these conversations in person. I don't like doing them over Zoom. I've done a few over Zoom, and they've done well, but I like being in the room. And so I was like, well, yeah, I would love to, Chris. Where are you located? And he's like, I'm in the Houston area. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be there like next week. So we had a couple quick conversations. He sent over one of his books to me. I was able to look that over. And I'm just excited to be here with you today because he is an educator. And that's something that I did for years. That was my degree. It's something that's special to my heart. And I really love what you're trying to do. So before we get into that, Chris, can you just give us a little introduction into how long you've been training jiu-jitsu, how you got into it?
All right. So I've been training 15 years now, and all of them at Gracie Baja the Woodlands. Our professor is Alex Morano. He's a UFC veteran. He's got close to 25 fights in the UFC. And then we've got several other gentlemen that are top of the food chain athletes that either fight at the UFC level or just right there at the cusp, and got this, like I call it the Scrap Pack 2.0. And it's this next generation of young fighters that have captured the Houston amateur scene by storm and hold quite a few of the titles.
Really?
Yeah, we're extremely lucky, blessed to be training there.
And when did you get your black belt?
So I've been training 15 years. I received my black belt, I think, on like year 12.
Yeah.
So this past year, Morano had gifted me with the first degree on my black belt. And they tend to be on the longer side of promoting, So I like to think that I could hold my own with my rank.
Yeah. 15 years is a long time. And so congratulations. I'm just sticking with it.
Yeah, discipline is it's a thing, right? When motivation runs out, it's discipline that we lean on. So don't feel like going every day. Sometimes we're tired. Sometimes our kids are sick or whatnot, but discipline to get you through those days.
I wanted to ask, as somebody who is in the earlier stages of my journey in jiu-jitsu where it's fun and exciting and I'm learning something new every day, like what advice do you have just for people to stick with it, like for as long as you have, when those days when the excitement kind of phases out or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll say there's a couple of things. I'm going to start number one with the relationships.
Okay.
The relationships that you make on the mats, they're first class, right? Like you're sweating together, you're bleeding together, every once in a blue moon crying together and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
So like really investing in the people that you're training, side by side with, they all got their stories. And it's almost like a podcast. Sometimes after class, you grab a nice seat against the wall and then now you got a little 30-minute to an hour-long conversation.
Yeah.
So the relationships are what
huge
keep bringing me back. And then I would say the other thing that keeps bringing me back and it allows me to train as much as I do is it's forever evolving. Like we don't know everything. Like even at the black belt level, I kind of realized that there's so much more that I don't know. So there's always more to learn. There's never a day that you go in and you're like, oh, I've seen this before. you may have seen the technique before, but depending on who's teaching it, you may get a different detail inside of the technique. So I've seen the armbar, 100 times?
At
But depending
least.
on who's teaching it, right, you may just get like that little snippet that makes it just bite. So, yeah, it's a forever education.
Chris, you are a hobbyist because you're a school teacher. That's your day job. So you don't own your own gym, right?
Yeah.
I think lots of times when I ask professors, like, what do you love about jiu-jitsu, or do you still love it like you used to? Of course, they kind of have to give me some fun, exciting answer because they own a gym. But you're a hobbyist, or you're.
That's what it is.
Is that what it is? Is that the right? I mean, but you're doing this for the love of it. But at 15 years, do you still enjoy it?
Oh, I love the hell out of it because, again, I'm going to go back to the relationships. I've made some of my best friends in life when it comes to sports, right? So this was a natural progression. I was a high school and college baseball player, college rugby player, played a ton of basketball. So this was a progression, and that's where I get my best relationships, is just playing. So jiu-jitsu is just a natural progression. So yeah, I love it because I love people.
That's great. And obviously you love people because you are a school teacher. So let's talk a little bit about that. Share what you teach, grades you teach, things of that nature.
All right. So I've been teaching for 20 years now.
Wow.
99% at, the same school. At the moment, I'm teaching teen leadership, and it's a course where we can talk about values and principles and virtues. I'm able to instruct young people in like the art of shaking hands, making eye contact, public speaking. And I think that these are skills that regardless of what they do in life, like they're applicable. And I don't think that can be said about, every subject, but I can help the kids realize like when you leave my class, like you'll use it on the football field. You'll use it with your parents. You'll use it with your employer. So I think I really found my sweet spot falling into teen leadership these last 3 or 4 years.
I didn't even know that was a course that was a class that was offered.
I think it should be mandatory. I think it should be, neck and neck with math, language arts, history, science. I mean, we're people at the end of the day, right? So it only makes sense that these things get taught.
How did that lead you into writing these books now? I want to hear about this.
Oh my goodness.
So share this with us.
So I'm an author, and during the COVID times, right, 2 things could have happened. You could have been on your couch watching YouTube and just kind of like wasting away.
Absolutely.
Or you had this other faction of people that took that time to pursue all the things that they always wanted to pursue because now time was not a thing. Time was no longer an issue. So I got into writing children's books. These books that I write, they're about things that are specific to me, but they're also pretty general. Like my first book, it was from my mother. It's called Dear Mama, and it's a book that speaks about all the lessons that a mother can impart onto her son, respect, how to treat a lady, et cetera, et cetera. And it was kind of like a big thank you to her because she is a guiding light. She is the reason why I am who I am. And, she raised me on her own. And this is probably like the best way I could have said thank you without saying thank you.
Sure.
Right. But then it kind of like momentum took over. And I wrote a book about my father, and I included the city of Houston in it. It's probably my most popular book because we were able to use a bunch of locations inside of the city of Houston that are hotspots like the Astrodome, the Toyota Center. And then I fused that in with Paul Wall, a local rapper over here, and Kanye West. There's a song called Drive Slow that's pretty popular around these parts. And I named that second book Drive Slow because I think we should really be like taking the time to enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, right? So kind of went around that moniker. I got one that's told from a coach's perspective and all the wisdom I want to impart to my athletes. I got one about growing up. Got a book where talk about a teacher, right? And I noticed like how every kid has individual talents, but not every one of those talents are necessarily celebrated in a school setting. Like the entrepreneur that's selling hot chips, but they get their hand slapped because you're not supposed to be selling hot chips in school, but that that's an entrepreneur right there. Like they got a special skill set. It's just not celebrated inside of school and whatnot. And then my most recent one, Flow State, which talks about combat sports and then all the things that young people could obtain by training, combat sports, confidence, resilience, leaving your ego at the door and whatnot.
How do you see jiu-jitsu and combat sports fitting into the public school educational system?
Oh my God, I am so glad that you asked that. I want to spearhead this movement where we take combat sports and we slowly start to breach the school system. And I do have a plan. I do think that there are about 3% of the students that take up about 90% of administrators' times. They're your frequent flyers. They're always in the principal's office. Maybe they got too much energy. Maybe, their mouth gets them in trouble. Maybe they just have trouble sitting still. Maybe they're just disinterested, right?
Yeah.
And I want to take those kids and I would like to introduce them, to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but inside of school hours. We could zap the piss and vinegar out of them, like satiating that need for movement, right? The confidence that one builds from training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You don't have to come into the room and size everyone up and act like the meanest and the toughest. You walk into a room and now you're a calm and gentle soul, right? Think about the nutritional, aspects that could be a benefit. Like when you train, you start eating better because you don't like the way you feel if you've been eating bad on the mats. Your hydration, like you switch from soda to water because you do know on the mats that you're going to feel like death if you've been sipping on soda. So like naturally your body starts to acclimate to the gentle art. You start to take exercise a little more serious. You start to take your sleep a little more serious. And before you know it, you have a comprehensive, well-rounded, individual. And I think the school system has kind of dropped the ball. Like we keep trying the same things, but no one wants to take a chance, on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and introducing it, to our kids that need a good, strong leader. They need exercise. They need nutritional, content for their mind.
I was going to ask you about the leadership aspect and the mentorship.
Yeah.
You touched on that a little bit. Are those kids that are coming into the office, are they missing that element as well? Not just the hyper.
No. I would say that you're 100% correct. Like everyone wants to be a part of the tribe. And why not give these young people like a tribe that is worth following, right? Like someone that is well respected, someone that is kind, nurturing, giving, someone that's in good shape, someone that, lives in the moment, someone that values, education. I think the most growth that I've seen as an individual has been like since I've been training 15 years ago. And I'd like to share that gift, with the youth, but like we need people to take a chance.
That's exactly what I was going to ask is in these 15 years of experience, how has jiu-jitsu made a difference in your life? And I know you said like the relationships is how you kept going, but how has it impacted your life? Because you obviously want to share that with other people.
Yeah. So I used to be very quick-tempered, quick to action, run my mouth, and there was something about that humbling experience of the first day I walked in. And it was a gentleman by the name of Chad Kite and Chad Robo. And they were probably like 10 to 15 pounds less than me. But they proceeded me to fold me up like laundry. And they did it in the nicest way possible. They were even holding conversations with somebody else while they proceeded to fold me up. And I considered myself a very athletic individual. I had just come off the rugby field. I was a good athlete. And I was like, I have to know this wizardry. This is magic. And just something about being humbled, something about spending your time and energy, and then just all the other unintended consequences, like the nutritional thing that I was talking about, the sleep, the hydration. It just culminates in creating a better, individual. That's why I'm such a big advocate for it.
Have you been able to introduce it to any of the kids in the school system yet?
No, unfortunately, public education kind of sees it as like, I want to say they see it through like a crooked lens or through a broken lens, right? Like if I come to you and I say like, I want to show kids how to control somebody. I want to show kids how to take someone down, how to submit them, how to choke them, how to put them in an arm bar, foot lock, whatnot. I could see how that could come across as off-putting. But with that being said, like you're being ignorant if you don't look at the entire picture and listen to the experiences of other people. Like through going through those experiences, we end up like forming a much more like kinder, calmer, nicer human being that's full of confidence and isn't looking for confrontation, either A, because they're tired already and they're zapped from training, or B, they have the confidence to avoid conflict.
Yeah, we almost need to work on our persuasion tactic of how we sell this thing, especially to who it is. It's the gentle art. It's these things that can help. Because if you go right into, I was a school teacher, and it's like, okay, before I knew this, I would have thought, well, you're gonna teach the kid who already has problems how to control the people. But when we look at it that way, we miss out on the discipline aspects and how it can help them. Besides that, are there any other big challenges that you're facing trying to introduce this to the school system?
I think it's an idea whose time has come. And I think on my end, what I need people that have a voice in the community. You know, like you got your Sean Strickland's, who mixed martial arts, saved. You got your Nick and Nate Diaz, who martial arts, help turn into productive citizens. We need people that have a voice. Your Joe Rogans of the world, your Dana Whites of the world, Michael Bisping's, Daniel Cormier's, Chael Sonnen's, all of those guys. Like, it would be nice if they spoke up on our behalf and then tried to help us champion this cause, because it's tough, right? Like, who am I? I'm nobody. I'm Coach Ortiz here in the Woodlands, Texas.
Right.
But when you start to hear it from people like that, like, there could be some momentum that grows. I even heard Cody Sanchez, right? She's a business podcaster. She was talking to Michael Chandler.
Right.
She was talking about the benefits of Brazilian
That
Jiu-Jitsu.
video went viral.
Yeah.
Every school I know ripped that video off and shared it because it was really good about the benefits. Yeah. Especially I think she was referring to young men,
Yes.
boys. Yeah, I think it could help kids in such a huge way that maybe other sports can't. As somebody, you played baseball. What sport did you play?
I was a high school and college baseball
Player. I was a soccer player. Big team sports. Baseball, you have a little bit more of an individual aspect because you're up there batting alone.
Yep.
But soccer, I love team sports, but it was never just me. I had a team. And so that's one thing that I've appreciated that I've gotten from jiu-jitsu is the growth in, hey, this is just you. You're going to do this on your own and it's up to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's made the biggest impact in me as a business owner, as a husband, and as a father. Because if I'm having problems in my marriage, no one's going to come to save me.
No.
If I'm having problems with my kids, yes, they have their mother, but it's up to me. I'm going to take the leadership of my home to try to help solve whatever those problems are. And if there's a problem in my business,
Well, furthermore,
success isn't guaranteed. I think entrepreneurism is kind of popular and sexy right now, and
it is a hot word.
but it's like, no, this is really, really hard. Somebody told me, well, when you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life again. And I said, I can't relate.
That's a lot.
When you're doing something that you love, you're going to work 10 times harder than you ever have at it. And that is something that's been helpful for me.
Well, think about how like jiu-jitsu has helped you with like your problem solving, right? Like it helps you find different ways and perspectives and routes and whatnot. Like the routing aspect has been very eye-opening to me.
You have to be open to it though, because sometimes if you're just going through the motions, you can never connect the dots of the benefits of the martial art with your life. I have to sometimes slow down and meditate on what is this problem that I'm having in work and what are the ways that I can solve it and how has jiu-jitsu and other healthy hobbies helped. Sometimes, I mean, we know tons of people who are great at jiu-jitsu but haven't applied it to other areas of their life.
Correct. But I do think in time, you'll find it. You'll find that flow state, so to speak, right? Like at the beginning, we hold on to things, really hard, strong. And I heard you reference like my knuckles hurting, at first. Yeah. But as you get a little bit older in the game, you just kind of figure out like, okay, this is not an area to fight. Let me flow into another, position. And then let me find a position that's a little more advantageous where I can find a little more leverage. And that's the beauty in the game. Like the more you practice, like you'll find that flow state in your marriage and in your business.
Yeah. One thing I'm enjoying about jiu-jitsu right now is just trying to have fun with making mistakes. I heard a really great entrepreneur say, when he's making decisions, he makes them quick. That doesn't mean you excuse not getting counsel or advice from people when needed. But he's like, most of the time when I'm making decisions, I make them quick, and that I can use that to then take action and then pivot from there. I think originally in my young adult years, I would overthink everything and I wouldn't make decisions. I would want everything to be lined up perfectly. And maybe out of fear that what if I make the wrong decision? In my first couple of years of jiu-jitsu, man, there was a lot of that. I'm too afraid to escape, because if I escape, then they're going to catch my arm. But now it's like, yeah, I got tapped, so what? I'm having a lot more fun with taking risks.
Yes.
And you have to take risks in business or in these other areas. But
Well, I think that's one of the biggest problems with humans in general. Everybody wants it to just like line up perfectly. And that's not the way it is. It's like you have to go into actions. Like you have to go mess up. You have to make those mistakes. It's a proof of concept. It's proof that you're trying, because if you never get off the start line, like, you don't know. The worst thing in the world is not the girl telling you, no, I will not go out with you whenever you ask. The worst thing in the world is like never knowing. And then her going out with your best friend or something,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the worst thing in the world. So a lot of people are like trapped in this, like they're frozen. They're stuck.
yeah,
So just give it a go. Go mess up. Go get armbarred.
yeah, just go get arm. Who cares?
Tap. We'll do it again. You know,
Yeah.
we'll slap, bump, and then we'll keep it moving.
As somebody who was a school teacher, I was a school teacher for 5 years. I went to college. It was my degree. And it's very important to me, even though I'm not doing it full time anymore. I'm still looking for ways to help out with youth, teens through my local church, things of that nature. Eventually start helping out maybe in kids' class more, because it's really important to me. Only because I had really good leaders in my life. Like I had great parents, but I had other really good men in my life who were examples, who were there for me, where I could, talk to them about certain things or get advice from. And I know that was missing a lot in schools. In fact, when I was a teacher, that was probably one of the parts I enjoyed the most. My kids did not care. My students didn't care what I taught, but they knew that I cared about them, that I loved them genuinely, and I wanted to see them do well.
That's the price of admission.
And they say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that was my goal, that when kids came to my classroom, that they felt they were in a safe, good environment.
Seen, heard.
And I think that's been the hardest part about not teaching anymore, not having that. So I'm really glad there's people like you and a lot of other guys like you in school, practicing, trying to make a difference, not just through jiu-jitsu, but a lot of ways. Guys, if there's an educator out there listening who's also a practitioner, reach out to Chris, connect with him, support each other. As an author, though, what type of message or lesson do you hope to convey through these books?
I think when I'm writing these books, they're coming like directly from my experiences, and all of my books have something to do with relationships, and then also just I say love, right? Like a book to my mom, that's love, right? The book to my dad, that's love. The book from a coach to his athletes and the lessons that he thinks are important that go beyond the actual sport, that's love. Flow state, same thing. It's love, it's confidence, checking your ego at the door, discipline, just being tough. So I'm gonna say, relationships, and I'm gonna say love is like, overarching theme.
Chris, for other educators and parents who might be unfamiliar with jiu-jitsu, what would you say to them about the potential benefits of them getting their kids involved in the martial art?
So as an educator, this, like, anxiety is through the roof right now. Like, we receive all kinds of paperwork. We get emails from parents, hey, my kid is anxious. My kid has anxiety. They're they're not comfortable doing this, they're not comfortable doing that. By getting your kids into a combat sport, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you pick, what you're doing is you're helping your kid work through that anxiety. Like there is nothing more anxiety, ridden than like having to wrestle your friend in some pajamas, right?
Yeah.
And then like the proximity, like when you get that close to someone, like if you were to see the kids in school, like they avoid conversation, they avoid eye contact, the things that we did growing up that were commonplace, like they're not commonplace. They've been replaced by the phone.
Wow. Yeah, they definitely have been.
Yeah. So we have to intentionally build that back in if we want our young people to kind of like sync up, because they're syncing up to the Wi-Fi, but they're not syncing up to one another. They're talking to one another, but they're not truly communicating.
That's
So I would say that one of the biggest benefits would just be like human connection, because it's a different world we live in and we have to be intentional, and jiu-jitsu is a intentional way. And then you have all the other offshoots, the exercise, the nutrition,
Yeah.
the humility, the empathy, those are all other beautiful benefits.
my wife and I have decided that we're not going to force our kids to become these top level competitors. Like we want them to do other sports if they want to, but we've decided that they're going to be training, and they're going to train until they get a blue belt. They're young. They're 8, 10, and almost 12. And when we said, when you're moving out of the house, when you turn 18, you can quit. We're not shoving it down their throat. We want them to fall in love with it, like my wife and I have. But we want as their parents to know that when we send them out into this world, that hopefully they have some types of fundamentals in self-confidence and self-defense.
Oh my God. Yes. And they're going to come back and they're going to thank you. Take it from a parent of a 23-year-old, an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like they do come back and say thank you. In the moment, it might be like, Dad or Mom.
Yeah. It's that balance of pushing them, but also making them not hate it.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're under our care till the age of 18, right? So I think that you're doing a mighty fine job, and I really wish more people would get their kids into that, because like as students, as a teacher goes, my wrestlers, my jiu-jitsu players, my kickboxers, kids that practice combat sports, they're the most kind,
Are they?
gentle, smart, disciplined kids, and golly, the world would just be a better place if more kids trained.
Let's talk about your future as an educator and as an author and as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. What are you looking forward to still? 15 years of jiu-jitsu, 20 years of education?
Yeah, people ask me, do you want to get into administration? I've had a lot of my principals say, Chris, like this would be perfect for you, but I don't want to be taken from the front lines. I think the work needs to be done on the front lines with the kids. Unfortunately, like when we step into administration, yes, you can affect a lot of, people, and you can do a lot of good. But for me, I'd much rather be in front of like the 300-400 kids I get to see every day and affect them directly, not indirectly, by shuffling people around, but getting at the eye level with the kids. So I see myself teaching, another 6 or 7 years until I retire, because I'm close to retirement age. I hopefully will continue to coach. Education's a weird game right now, though. They keep adding things on to our plate, but they're not removing anything. And you can see it with the teacher shortages and just people just...
So many of my friends are no longer teaching.
Yeah. So...
And that's still an important need. They didn't just go away.
No, and it was once a very well-respected, profession. And for whatever reason, like we're turning into public enemy #1, and we're indoctrinators. And look, nobody's perfect. They got some goofballs out there that should most definitely not be instructing kids. Yeah. But it's not a teacher thing. It's a power thing. You have police officers that shouldn't be wielding the badge. You have people that are in the hierarchy of the church that should not be, instructing young people and whatnot, because they've got their own, issues, behind the curtains. So it's not us teachers. It's just a few bad apples, and you should never let a few bad apples, spoil the bunch. Get rid of them, fire them. But the ones that are in it because they got, a heart for kids, man, hold on to those. Treat them good.
Yeah.
Be nice to them. Celebrate them.
Oh, Chris, I know you said you're not really that interested in administrative or in that leadership part of the school. You like having the direct impact on the kids, and that's great. But maybe be open. If you could be the leader to then share that to other teachers, and then the trickle down, it can go from, if you can share that with 3 teachers, now that 300 kids becomes 900 kids, and it can just grow from there. But whatever it looks like, it's super important.
I think you bring up a really good point. I was listening to some professional development, right? You've seen your fair share of professional development.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, like, is this over with yet? And they're just doing their job. I understand it. But during this whole week when we were going through professional development, I was jotting down things for a professional development that I would like, to create. I've got this idea in my head, like grappling with education, or I don't know, something that just would be a lot more entertaining and hit home, other than the standard finding your why, right? Like that's the thing we hear every year.
I know.
It's not wrong.
Yes, but sometimes it didn't relate. I don't know what my why is. Like, the why is because I need to I have responsibilities, but like the long last, it's hard.
Very hard. It's very hard. It's a little lazy too. It's like a go-to.
Yeah, we'll just find your why. Okay, well, thanks. Well, help me. How do I do that?
Yeah. So I'm playing around with some professional development that I'd like to take on the road that would incorporate jiu-jitsu. And then another thing to your point, like the administration thing, like, and being on the front lines, I don't think you need a title to be a leader. So I think that I could lead even though I just have the title of teacher and coach. I think that through my actions that I could also lead. I may not get the 100K like a principal does, but I'll take my 70K, and lead from the front line through my actions.
How do you hope to see the relationship between education and jiu-jitsu evolve in the future?
I'd love to see the two get married.
Yeah.
Or maybe even become kissing cousins or something. And I think that we need the people with the voices out there in the world that could really make it happen. Like, think if Dana White came out and said, like, yeah, there's benefits for young people, if they practice, combat sports. If our Demetrius Johnsons, who's got a huge platform now, Daniel Cormier, Chael Sonnen, Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, all of these people that have benefited from it, like, if we can get them to help start rattling the cage, like, people are going to listen.
They will.
So hopefully, like, this podcast right here, like, maybe they're listening. Maybe Cody Sanchez is listening. She's like, let's get this movement going, because me and you both know, as educators and as practitioners, like, it's what's right for kids. And that's a question they ask us in education, like, is what you're doing right for kids? Yeah. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is what's right for kids. So let's start off with our troubled ones, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are just sitting in ISS and whatnot.
Well, I'm already thinking of people that I've met through this journey of this show, and maybe they haven't been on the show, but I've connected with them on Instagram or LinkedIn, who are making a similar impact. And I just hope to connect more people that have the same vision.
Yeah, let's do it together, right? Like, that's the beauty in this podcast game.
Before we take off, please let the audience know how they can find out more about you, or where can they find your books or anything else you want to share. You have the open floor.
Oh man, that's cool. I guess you could find me. I have a landing page, coachortiz.com. I run a pretty decent podcast. It's been a while since we recorded. We've been trying out, some other projects, but that podcast is called the Be Someone Podcast. And I just go out and I speak with people that are just moving and shaking and have caught my eye. With my books, my podcast.
Are the books linked on that landing page as well?
Mm-hmm. CoachOrtiz.com. In 2 weeks, Flow State should be out. I'm going to throw a Hail Mary. I sent it out to Jocko, because I know that Jocko Willink has a...
he's got the kids' books.
He's got the kids' books.
Way of the Warrior Kid. My son loved all those. They're making a movie of that now?
No.
They're making a movie of it. Who's the guy from... What's his name? Chris. What's the guy from Jurassic Park right now? He was in...
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt is playing Uncle Jake.
That's cool.
And Origin is making the geese for the production right now.
Oh my God, that's really cool. Like those are the kind of things like we need to get out into the world. Like Jocko's a
That's going to be
well-respected man.
huge. Yeah, that's going to be huge. It may not be huge relative to the world of media, but it's a big step in the jiu-jitsu journey, and hopefully that gets a lot of kids excited and want to try.
It'd be neat, man. If,
Especially Chris Pratt. You're having the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy on, and
Jurassic Park.
people are going to want to. People will want to see the movie just because of him, without knowing what it's about. So I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, so hey, you cross your fingers, man, and hope Jocko's listening and he takes a look at my work and sees some merit in it, and would like to help me take it to another level, because I think, man, we're just right there, just knocking at the door, waiting on that one opportunity, right?
Man,
And, it's worth the try, right? We talked about trying earlier. It's worth the try.
take the risk. Go get armbarred.
Yes.
Just send it.
Yeah.
Dude, Chris, I'm so glad that you took time out of your day to, I don't know, be on the show. I'm glad you sent me that a DM on Instagram, buddy.
Oh my God, man, I'm glad that you picked it up. Like, the podcast game. Like, you send a lot of DMs, and like some people just act like they didn't see it or they didn't read it, and you took time out of your day to read it and see the promise and the merit of the conversation.
Well, guys, I can't recommend enough. Check out Chris, visit his landing page. I'll have the link in the description, and get his book. If you got kids, if you're an educator, just reach out to him. Just become a friend.
Yeah, please do.
And we have more show-wise. We have more episodes coming soon. So if you enjoyed this, you made it to the end, congratulations. I want to say thank you. There's a lot of media on the internet. So the fact that you took time out of your day to watch and listen to this, we both greatly appreciate it. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Like and subscribe, please. Peace.